Take it away, chat. What's up, y'all, and welcome back to Reading, Writing, and Rain. This is me documenting my writer's journey. I'm your host, 𝙭, and this is another PREPTOBER vlog. So it's been an interesting PREPTOBER. So like I said, I've been trying to finish out this current work in progress so that for Nano, I can start my new one. So with PREPTOBER, I'm kind of using PREPTOBER as another Nano just to kind of wrap up the last couple chapters that I have for this current work in progress. And man, am I tired. So with my current work in progress, there are a few issues that I'm running into, and I'm trying to be more positive about it, put a positive spin on it. Though I'm having these issues and I'm struggling with not necessarily motivation, but with like getting these last couple chapters done. What I think is happening is that I may be a little scared to finish it. Don't know why. I'm sure there's a whole lot more to unpack there, but kind of revisiting the spirit or the timeline of this second installment to the duet series that is my current work in progress. I have had issues. So in the previous video, I did mention that I had 2 times where I had to rewrite a large portion of the manuscript. And I mentioned before that it was okay. You know, I felt like I had a little bit sharper, a little bit more focused the second time around. And that's what I'm using to kind of carry me through to the end of this work in progress. Because I've kind of in the middle of making this first draft for the second book, I've it's kind of like a draft and a half, because certain portions that I had to rewrite is like a second draft. And so that kind of dopamine hit that I got from like rewriting and keeping focused the story that I was trying to tell has really helped me within writing and getting to the end. But that final 15, 20 something chapters are like kind of taking me down. And again, I think it's just purely fear, but I will overcome. So that being said, the 2 times that I had to rewrite portions of this manuscript were a bit stressful. One portion in particular was one scene from 2 different characters' point of views and kind of stacked as far as the timeline is concerned. So the first one I ran through, and it's following a young woman, the main character, through the entirety of this scene. Meets a couple people, some chaos happens, she fixes this, fixes that, kind of run around with like a chicken with her head cut off. But then there is another portion that's a little bit less chaotic, a little bit more stretched out, a little bit more emotional, and it is the male lead. And there are times in which the story crosses over, and it was not difficult to write because that's ordinarily how I write my stories, as you'll see once this comes out. But having to rewrite, I know there are some things that were not described the same, but I am actually like happy with what the second round of those scenes look like. The second time was towards the end of the book. So that portion was in, I'd say, the beginning of the second act. Now I'm in the 3rd act towards the end of the book, and I lost a substantial amount of words, and it kind of hit me harder this go round than the part from Act 2, because it felt like, okay, I'm at the end. I cannot afford to lose words, but life happens. It was another reminder that you need to save. I don't know why I did not save this go round. If you don't learn anything else from me or take anything away from this video, please save your work. Even if you already know to save it again, because I didn't. But this second time around, because that portion of the story was so close to the end and I felt like those words were so vital, I kind of took it a little bit harder than I would have if it had been an earlier like section. I'm sure there's a lot of different factors that maybe kind of play into that, be it where it is in the story, that I think these words are so valuable. I'm so close to the end. You know, what's going on in my personal life around this time, like socially with friends and everything else. But after I kind of put on my big boy pants and I kind of got over it, because I'm like, you know, stuff happens. This is just another reminder that you may have plans that can be derailed. Though it's my fault for not saving that, I can be frustrated and mad at myself. But what happens next time if I go to write something and there's a technological problem where it doesn't save, and it's not truly my fault? Like, are you going to be upset and pout about it then? So it was, I don't know, it took me a minute to get to this point, but man, I'm here and I'm happy and I'm making it to the end. But those two instances really kind of shook me when it comes to this work in progress, and I'm hoping that it shook me enough that I won't run into this issue again at my own hand. So I am saving everything. I'm saving, I'm downloading the file once it's saved, every single sit-in writing sprint that I get done. I'm then emailing it to myself. I'm like doing everything that I can to make sure that I do not lose these words, even though once I go through and edit and then prepare for an editor to come back behind me, I'm sure a lot of stuff will change, but I can't afford to lose these words. Even though with this story, I'm not necessarily working off of word count as my benchmark for like, oh, you're complete, it's 90,000 to 60,000. That's not where I am. I'm using the word count more or less to just track my progress through the story, not necessarily, are you done with this chapter? Are you done with this chapter? So that's where I am with the work in progress currently. So if you are working on a project, regardless if it's for Nano or not, let me know if you've run into the same issue or if you've been a little smarter than me and have clearly saved your work each and every time, because we know that has not been my ministry for a while. I am trying to make it my ministry going forward. So now when it comes to this story, it is about a young woman going through a divorce and pretty much fleeing the scene of the crime. The emotional turmoil had gotten to be too much for her, and she leaves and goes to another state and is surrounded around family and deals with her life after the realization that this marriage just won't work. The story came to me as an author, like the smallest of things can like spark a manuscript. It can spark a story, but I believe with this one, I want to say a friend of mine, or was it her sister? Someone was dealing with like marital issues, and this was a few years back. And that was enough to like pull this story out. It's not beat for beat, that's that woman's story, but just being near someone and having like marital issues / divorce so close to me where it's not like, oh, this is on TV or a friend of a friend of a friend. Like whoever it was so close to me in proximity that I was like, oh, this idea was just stuck in my head. What happens with a divorce? Like what does that look like? And the story's not even necessarily about the woman going through the divorce. That's like the catalyst that pushes her into this whole new world. And everything else was just kind of like pulled out of thin air. You're always influenced by different things, and that's what I kind of feel like Preptober is for. So even when you're preparing for your book, your novel, whatnot, you get your research down, you get your inspiration down, you get your brain dump down, like all of that inspiration that you're pulling from different places, be it a real world event, an occurrence, industry that you know nothing about. Maybe there's a scientist or a criminal detective or something. Like that's what Preptober is for me. And that's, though I did not start this book for Nano, I did start this book some time ago, and the same processes that I'm using for Nano and have used for the past few years is what I use to get ready for this book. So when I got that one little spark of a story from someone close to me, possibly dealing with a divorce, it spiraled out to this huge story. And now I'm on the second installment. And even with that, with prepping for that, it was the same process, getting my brain dumped down. What are things that can happen? What are real world events that happen? What are the actual mechanics of dealing with a separation? What happens if you're dating during being separated? What if divorce isn't on the table? What happens if a family member is sick? What happens when you're pulled back into this world that you escaped from because it was an emotionally traumatizing situation? What does that look like when you are forced to deal with the world that you, for all intents and purposes, ran away from? And so, though I am finishing up this story for Nano, or for Preptober to prepare for Nano, I'm still kind of using that in the process that I had with coming up with this story to prepare me for November. Like, man. And when you're building a shared universe, I'm excited for it. But with this particular story, it was that small little idea that came from, unfortunately, someone else's misfortune, but it was a real world occurrence. It's things that happen. People get divorced, people fight, people break up, people get back together every day. So that's kind of the the fire, or the beginnings of the fire that led to this whole world that is now my current work in progress. And I couldn't be happier. I'm thoroughly enjoying the story. And if I'm being quite honest, I think another portion of me having or struggling with ending the story is that I've enjoyed these characters. I enjoyed this world, and I don't know if I want to quit. So of course you can write other stories in this world, but it's like, oh, I've spent so much time with these characters and with this world and with moving the pieces around, essentially playing the all-powerful, and now this could possibly be the last installment. Of course it could go on forever. You can find ways to make that work, but I think I'm a little nervous about ending this story, man. So with this story, though I am close to the end and I'm kind of wrapping up things and reading through the manuscript to see what things I may need to wrap up at the end before like this ends completely, there's also a few other scenes that I have to add in the middle, I don't know, Act 1, Act 2, to make some other portions make sense, or just to kind of flesh out a little bit more. And that amount, because right now I'm looking at it as one chapter that would include maybe 4 or 5 like smaller scenes. And then there's another portion that's another chapter that could include maybe 4 or 5 scenes as well. But that could very well change. And that's one thing I absolutely love about the writing process. And it's kind of love or hate thing. So on the one hand, you can always add more and take away things and alter it to make sure that you're getting your story across in the way that you want it. But then you also, there's running that risk of you doing too much. You can over edit, you can overwrite, you can hesitate to put something out. You can edit so much that you look up and now 3 or 4 years have passed and you have not released a book. It's never going to be perfect. Someone is always going to find an issue with it. And there's going to be folks who love it just as much as those who hate it. And that's not really a concern of mine. It's something I consider, but it's not a concern. But what I'm trying to do for me with this Preptober is like nail down those particular scenes that I absolutely want to add. Because like me, I am long-winded. I could very much say, I want a scene with this young lady at a well. And that well scene turns into like a whole novella. And so I have to like really rein myself in and really pinpoint, these are the chapters you need. These are the scenes you need. This is exactly what needs to happen, because the manuscript is so long as it is already. I want to say I'm probably at 67,000, maybe a little more. And then I know there's a whole set of like 500 words that are not included in this manuscript that are from the beginning, because I ended up writing it in 2 different files for whatever reason. But what I am hoping to do by the end of this month, really in the next week, hopefully by this next writing vlog, is to nail down these scenes, write them. Even if I have to just do a summary, I'm okay with using the second draft to go through and flesh out some of this, but I need to get these words down on paper so I can be done with this first round of this manuscript, because truly I'm ready to be finished. I'm ready to be finished with this so that I can move on to the next project, work on that first draft, and then revisit it with fresh eyes. So that's really my plan going forward, is before this month is over, hopefully within the next week and some days, to finish out this current work in progress, get all the scenes down that I need, and tuck that thing away so that I can jump right into my new project. So let me know, what are you guys working on? Do you have a work in progress that is kind of kicking your butt? Maybe it's going smoothly. Maybe you're having some of the same issues. We can converse, jump in the comments, let me know how you feel, and we can share some tips. Let's commiserate together as it pertains to this story, because y'all, I'm going through it in all the best ways, but I am going through it. Yeah, so all in all, I'm enjoying Preptober, and I'm having fun with writing in a way that I don't want to say I haven't before, haven't in a while. It feels a little corny, but I am thoroughly enjoying it and putting up these videos to keep myself accountable, because you all know sometimes you just need that extra push of like motivation and accountability. And so if any of you all out there want that accountability as well, please feel free to, you know, visit these videos and let's push each other towards the end to prep for Nano and to make it through on the other side having won, but not judge ourselves too harshly. If you don't win, it's okay, as long as you get those words on the paper. Please make sure to check out my first PREPTOBER vlog for this one. And then also, I have a few other Nano vlogs that I recorded throughout the year, but we're going to get this. We're going to get this, y'all. So thank you so much for listening in. Please go ahead and get your stuff done. Motivate me. I motivate you. And thank you guys for listening. Until next time, I want you to go away and read something. I want you to write something and then come back and tell me, Rhayne, and we can prep up for this Nano. You know what I'm saying? See y'all on the other side. All right.